I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about is your politics driven by low self-esteem? And I want to talk about that, and I have that question because so many times people will try to influence or insult, I guess, by asking the question like, oh, why do you support Trump? He literally doesn't care about you. Or why do you support Republicans? They literally don't care about you. They don't care about anyone. Like they drive that sort of narrative. And I don't really believe that to be the case. And I can lay out, I guess, reasons why, but surely there's people who don't care, I guess, on a personal level, and they still just kind of do the work. And that's the most important thing, right? Are they going to implement good policies that are going to be good for you and good for your family, etc.? But I just find it fascinating because I don't know. Usually, the type of people who will say stuff like that are also the type of people who throw racial slurs my way. So if people feel that way, I've just respond with like, why do you care? Because I don't believe you care about me either. And sometimes people respond with, yeah, I don't care about you. So why are we playing games? Why is it so important to so many people, especially on the left? But there are people on the right who are like, I really need to feel like my politician cares about me. And I know that's important to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of people who really do like Trump just want him to do the job. They may like him personally because they think he's funny and other stuff like that. But they know that he has a lot of bad habits and a pretty messy, past and situation with his life and marriages, and, would definitely not endorse him to preach a Sunday sermon on the pulpit or something like that. But they do like his policies, and he's willing to be a bulldozer for the things that they want. Does he do everything that they want? No, he certainly doesn't do everything that I want. And I criticize them quite a bit, but I certainly didn't like who they put on the ballot. And I often don't. And I find them hostile toward me. So I want to talk about this mentality, I guess, because I just see it in a lot of different aspects of politics today. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run my website, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the website, different t-shirts and so on. Oh, I'm not the victim you're looking for is a good one to point out today. And also my money, my business. Yeah. But we got some mugs too, like the black tea mug. I got the pumpkin spice one. I also have that in a t-shirt. You guys can get that too. So, just check out the different merch that's available on the site. You guys can also check out my books. I have a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube that'll take you to an Amazon page where you guys can check out my stuff. I have 17. Is it 17? No, I think it's 18 books right now. So altogether that I have, 2 of them being nonfiction. One of those books being, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. And I'm really frustrated. I'm like updating you guys about my situation with my books and stuff, my proofs as I'm trying to get bigger out. That's my children's book. And so Amazon, no surprise. I was telling you guys that I didn't expect them to have my book in tomorrow. Yesterday. They didn't. And so they pushed the date back again. So they're telling me Sunday. I'm going to probably call Amazon again to see if it's even printed. Because if it's not printed, I don't expect to have it on Sunday. And they're just saying there's an issue. They won't tell me what the issue is, Sometimes they do have issues. Like one time my sister was trying to get like a book or something from Amazon and they're like, "Oh, forgive us, there's a hurricane." And it's like, "Oh, okay, okay, I understand stuff like that." But I just don't know why there's such a delay. I've never had this issue before. I mean, I've had a delay before, but not two delays. I've never had that issue with Amazon. So it's not like they print these things overseas. They print them in the US. So I'm annoyed. It's one book. It's literally one book. And as far as the other company that's making the hardcover, they have the it, print ready, but they haven't printed it yet. And I placed the order last week, and so I don't know when they're going to actually make it. And it could be another week before they even make it and send it. And then I'd have to do ground shipping, wait for the ground shipping. And then I saw that the shipping I got was basic, and they don't even put a code on it, like a tracking code. I'm like, doesn't tracking basically come with everything? So I I know I'm gonna have to push the date that I wanted to release it. I was shooting for October, and I think I might not be able to like officially have the release and stuff that I wanted until October. I mean, till November, to be honest. And my November is stacked. My November is stacked. That opportunity that I haven't gone into details with, not live yet. That opportunity is in November, and I'm going to be missing some days. I'm going to be missing some days. So, and two different organizations actually reached out. Well, someone that I knew reached out to me about an opportunity um for something. And so I that's a short thing, but I'll be absent at least 2 days for that. And the other thing, I'll be gone for um more than a week. So I wish felt like I could just blurt it. I'll probably like join the newsletter, go to the website, drop in your email. I will explain it. I'm just, I don't want everyone to kind of know my business. So not everybody who views, I guess. So it's a big deal though. It's a big opportunity, and I will produce some good content from it. I just you'll just have to wait and see in anticipation. So I'd have to probably do my release thing when all that stuff is done, and that will probably be right before Thanksgiving. So it's just a stacked month, but we really want to make sure we do it before Christmas. And my sister's like, I don't want to do it in December, which I understand. So it's just rough. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, I'll keep you guys updated. As you know, because I like venting to you all my frustration on these things. Anyway, let's talk about the news. So this is more like a cultural thing, not like any breaking news that I think I'm going to really report today. But I came across a TikTok today because there's a sound that on TikTok there'll be like a sound from like a movie, TV show, or maybe even from a video that someone made, and it goes viral. So people like do voiceovers of that sound. And there was one I saw. The sound is from a court TV show, and it was a dispute about the paternity of a child. And a woman was saying, that's not my child's father, and he's like, I am the child's father, or whatever. And they were just doing a test or whatever. And so when it came back that he wasn't the father, she started like cheering, and the judge is like, what you cheering for? Oh, I'm a single mother, nobody loves me. So that's the sound. And so I saw some interesting takes that different people were using. So I think someone used it for a religious skit, and so on. So I started going through the sounds because I wanted to see what other people were doing the sound. And one of the top ones was a political one. So I'll go ahead and share it so you can at least see this person. I don't know how much if you're going to be able to read what's on the screen because I can barely read it, but I need glasses. So so I will let me shrink myself. And it says when I see women or person of color uh who loves Trump when he literally couldn't care less about your life. So that's what the caption says. And I'll go ahead and play it so you guys know the sound. So she's going to do like a move her lips or whatever. So it seems like she's saying the thing. And that's how the sounds work. It's going to be a really short video. A single mother with nobody to I'm sorry. Let me refresh it so it starts over.
But that cheering you did, what you cheering? I'm a single mother with nobody that loves me or my child. What you cheering for?
So that's it. I'm a single mother and nobody loves me. What you cheering for? So my issue here is that I see this all the time. Usually I see I see black Democrats saying that kind of stuff to me in my comments. I don't usually see white people do it so boldly. I'm not surprised though. But if they are white people, I guess they have a profile blocked out, or maybe they're a goofy monster, some kind of icon, and I just don't know that they're white. But usually people who tend to say that kind of stuff are the same ones saying racial slurs in my comment section or whatever. But when they say, oh, Trump doesn't care about you, Republicans don't care about you, like, why are you supporting them? Why they don't care about you? Even when I report on the Meyer story, and I think I already told you guys that, people were saying, why are you Myers don't care about you? Why are you even reporting on this story? Which I was just correcting misinformation that was going on about them firing someone who was stealing from their company. And there's this wild like propaganda nonsense mythos going out there, and I just corrected the record. Even had to call like newspapers, not call, but I emailed like a newspaper. I'm like, where'd you get this information? I don't see that it's verified anywhere. And they like had a retraction because they just got it off a GoFundMe page. And people were angry at me and like, this is a corporation. This is a corporation. Why do you carry a corporation? I'm like, this is my grocery store. I shop at Myers. This is a Michigan company supplying jobs to people throughout the Midwest. That's where I go for my groceries. Why would I want to see them go out of business? Why would I want people to boycott them? Why would I want people to lose their jobs over a lie? Like, they don't care about you. What does it matter? I think they care about my business. That's all the transaction I need from them. They care about my business. I give them money, they give me groceries. Unfortunately, it's a little higher than I would like right now, but that's our relationship. I don't need it to be something more than that. And by the way, they do nice things. They give out they donate money for the Fallen and Wounded Soldiers Fund that I work with the PAC, the Brighter Michigan PAC. They work with Fallen and Wounded Soldiers Fund, and we do our fundraiser every year, and they help out as far as like people buying, stuff, drinks and so on for the party. Like they give out like cards, usually like Meyer gift cards, for them to get a bunch of stuff from the store for the party. And they do other charitable things, so I don't think that they don't care about people or their customers or whatever. But I don't really need them to. We have a transactional relationship. And me standing up for the truth is just on principle. What about principle? And when it comes to the politics, what about politics? And what about my values, my principles? Why does it need to be so personal with so many Democrats? So when they say they don't care about you, I say, well, you don't care about me either. And some of them are like, yeah, I don't care about you. I know you're not telling me anything I didn't already know, but thank you for admitting it. Thank you for admitting it. So what I find interesting about her, first of all, she looks quite young. Um, but if we're still going by like 2020, 2021 sort of critical race theory, racial grievances, anti-racism, blah blah blah, you guys remember when all the white people were forced to admit their privilege and their inherent implicit bias or whatever, and they had to admit that they were racist. It's not enough to fight against racism, you have to admit that you're racist and fight against it or whatever. So that was a thing that was going on. And CRT teaches that even when people do things that look like they're not racist, they're just doing it to still benefit themselves, not because they're not racist. So I guess I mentioned that to say, she's saying like Trump literally doesn't care about you. Okay, but if we go by the ideology that the left likes to push and really wanted to push very hard, you're a racist who only speaks out against racism. I don't even know if she speaks out against racism, but you're addressing this to women and women of people of color. Your concern is probably not real concern. It's for you benefiting yourself. It's for your self benefit. So that's what I wanted to point out there. But the idea that I would need Trump to care about me, the important thing, I think the most important thing really, well, maybe not the most important thing, but when I would tell people like, chill out, and like when he won in 2016, I'm like, this man wants to be known as a great president. Like he does love the country. He does it, his ideology, he's not a conservative or whatever. His ideology, one thing that like makes his brain tick is he doesn't like the idea of getting ripped off. He's a president, so he doesn't want America to get ripped off. That's what a lot of things are in his mind about these tariffs and NATO. And he's like, we're getting ripped off. We're paying all this money. How come you guys aren't paying more money? And, etc. I don't think he's right in all the things that he pursues, but at the end of the day, he wants America to do well. He wants to make sure they're getting good deals. He wants to make sure that we're saving money where we can, that we're spending on things that are useful to our national defense, security, all those sorts of things. Rich people do like spending money, but but they also can be frugal in different ways, So he wants America to have a good vibe. He wants America to be, prosperous. He wants the people to feel like they're prosperous, to do well. He doesn't want Americans dying on his watch. He wants to make sure that, if we're going in wars or we're winning wars, he wants overall America to look good, because I do believe that he does care about the country in general as an American. But I think he wants it to look good and be good because it's a good reflection on him. So I think his ego, though, sometimes I'm like, oh man, really? I think it does play as a safety buffer to, I guess, people who are really flipping out about stuff. But as far as him caring about individuals, or I'll say me, or what, I've never met the man. I've sung at a few rallies, the national anthem. I think at least 2, maybe 3. I think 3. And I've been to the White House a few times. I think 3. I think 3 times. I've never met him. My sister did work on the campaign. She worked at the RNC in the midterms of like 2018 time, that time frame. I worked in the Michigan Republican Party in 2016 and like 2015, 2016. And 2017, but that's when I like kind of left. I think it was at like 2017 is when I maybe left. I think by the end of that year in 2017 I was gone. And she worked at the RNC, but she actually worked on the Trump campaign in 2020. And when my mom did pass, he had some, kind words for her and the family. And he, sent one of those presidential proclamation things that we read at the funeral. So it's like, it's not true that he literally doesn't care, you know? Um, it is funny though that Democrats will be like, he literally doesn't care about anyone. They'll say anyone. But I'm like, anyone? And I know because when I went undercover at a Democratic picnic, that's what they were saying. And I just thought it was so bizarre. I'm like, I don't think he cares about his kids. He seems to really love his kids and have a good relationship with his kids. Like nobody, like he doesn't care about his grandchildren. Like nobody. He's just like a heartless monster. He just wants to cause destruction. It's just a way to really, really villainize the people that you're running against, so you can justify any means necessary to win. That's really what it's about. Because otherwise, if you fought fair, then you'd have to acknowledge that you have bad policy, and they don't want to have to do that. So it's got to be personal. It's always got to be personal with these people. But I don't accept that he literally doesn't care. I don't need him really to. But I don't really believe that. And I don't buy into the Republicans don't care about you. I have so many Republican friends. So many people who just were so kind and did so much for me and my family. People who I met through politics, who just came together and supported my family when my mom passed. Like, you cannot tell me that Republicans don't care about people. I won't speak for all Republicans, but as far as trying to pry me away from Republicans based off of they don't care about people, that is not my experience. That is not my experience. I mean, people helping us, donating money for the funeral, for the reception, bringing over like food and other things like that. And again, these are people I just know through politics. They're not family. Making sure that we have a small church. And when we put it on Facebook that my mom had passed, we were trying to figure out what we are going to do about the church, because we just knew our church was really too small to have the funeral. And where we were thinking about having it at a friend's church, but where they were at, that church, it was just way too far from where we're going to bury her. And we were like, what are we going to do? We don't really have a lot of money, because my mom she had an insurance policy on my dad, but she had a very small one on herself, which we had a conversation about that maybe like 2 weeks before she passed, about her little insurance. She's like, I got enough to bury me. And we're like, Mom, you better increase that. And she didn't. And it was enough to bury her. It was just enough to kind of bury her. It wasn't enough for anything else. And so we were just kind of racking our brain, like, what are we gonna do about the church situation? Because you have to rent it out and pay and all that stuff. And a friend of mine, Tina Barton, called me and she said, I'm so sorry. I just saw that your mother passed away. I'm so sorry. And her church was very close. And she said, I know that, you guys are such pillars of the community, and so many people would want to be there to celebrate your mom. And so she said, I want to help you guys, have it at our church. And it's a big, nice church. And so she got in contact. I told her what our financial situation was, and she got in contact with her pastor, and she was out of town, hard at work. And they handled it. They had their sound guy there. They had other people there working that day to help us with the funeral. I didn't have to pay a dime. And when she called me, I was just like, Tina, this is just this is a godsend. I'm like, we were literally like having this conversation, like, what are we gonna do? And then she called. I'm like, this. So even in the midst of feeling so terrible, all the stuff going on about my mom passing, there was just still little things of just like God is gonna work things out. Like I still don't understand why my mom. I thought I'd have another 30 years with my mom. She certainly thought she'd have more time. She just had a little insurance policy on her, but you know, God was still like, you can still trust in me. You can still trust in me. You can still trust in me. And um, th- the pack that I work with, like I told them our situation, and some people came to the wake, dropped off a check, people were sending and stuff. And Senator Matt Danaskis, he was just like, let me know like what's going on, like what you need. And and he made sure to send out like a group email to people. And um Eric, who's in charge of the pack, he donated, he came over after the funeral, and he he made a lasagna. He's Italian, and so he made like a real Italian spaghetti lasagna. I Black people make lasagna and spaghetti and things a little different, but he brought over his lasagna, and he's like, if you need more sauce, he's like, don't put Pregu on it. He's like, don't put Pregu on it. And so he left, and then he started getting scared that we were gonna put Pregu on it. And so he's like, I'm going to the store to pick up this other sauce that you guys can use. Hold on. So he went and got the sauce and came back. And it was good sauce. And we didn't put Prego on it, but we still do like Prego. But so many people were so kind. And Trump wasn't the only one who sent like a presidential declaration thing. I mean, he was the only one who sent a presidential one, but there were other senators. Senator Tim Scott, I think, sent one. You had Wesley Hunt, I think, sent one. And oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on hold on. Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds. He sent one too. So you know, you just can't tell me that's not my experience. And it's sad to me that so many people, again, I went to that picnic and I listened to all these folks, and again, they didn't know I was Republican. So I just sat down and I had conversations with these people, and we had ordinary conversations about our likes and our interests and our families. And guess what? We believed in a lot of the same things. Not like all policy wise, but things that were important to us, things that tie humans together, we share in common. So it was just really sad to me that all these people are having good conversations with me, and people were trying to get me involved. All this stuff. And if they found out I was a Republican, that would flip, and it'd be like, oh, those darn Republicans, oh, those Black they don't know what's good for them. The narrative would just shift all of a sudden. Maybe we're more alike than people give us credit for. Like all this division, it's really unnecessary. Like, yeah, it's true that we disagree on policy, and some of these things that they do believe in, I think are wrong and evil. But it's that doesn't mean that, I don't know, people are irredeemable, as a certain politician once said, which that politician is Hillary Clinton. So I just don't buy that they don't care about you, period, narrative. But again, I really don't need to on an emotional level as far as when I'm voting for someone, because I want to make sure, like I said, the Meyer situation is transactional. A lot of people view Trump as they have a transactional relationship with him. like they don't like his cursing, they don't like his vulgarity, they don't like his that he had 3 wives, they don't like, you know, the certain things that he said about women. They don't like the grab him by the you know what comments, or I thought the fact that he was like willing to commit adultery with a woman or whatever was far more egregious than the grab him comment, because people like accepted that that was mostly locker room talk. But I'm like, he gave a story about how he's interested in like a married woman. Like, what the heck? like is everyone gonna ignore that? Like, you're a bunch of cheaters. Why don't you care about that? That's like so people don't like a lot of things about Donald Trump personally, but they do like that he came out strong out the gate in 2015. It was like, I'm going to do something about the border. He saw that that was an issue that a lot of people cared about, and he made that his staple. He made that his staple. And he get feedback, and he would adjust and pivot on certain things depending on, you know, what kind of backlash he got, but he was pretty strong on the border stuff. Now there was a time when he was president that, you know, he kind of floated doing an amnesty thing, and I don't like some of the stuff that he's even said now. Like he's like, "Oh, well, you know, there's a lot of people working on farms. We're not going to go after them cuz, you know." I'm like, "Okay, but what if that could be the same in other industries or other stuff that folks are doing. You're just really not going to do it here. Like, you could anyway." I think a lot of things with the border he's doing is good. It's virtually shut down compared to Biden and what Kamala Harris would have done. Excellent, amazing. It is funny to see Democrats still be upset about wife beating traffickers being deported. That they still don't want like that one guy who they had deported and they brought back so they could properly deport him, and like, no, still we can't deport him. It's like, I thought you guys didn't like that he didn't get enough due process, or he was deported to the wrong place, and so now that they're going to deport him somewhere else, you are still upset. Like, I guess you just don't really want anyone to be deported, period. But what I really want to point out, though, about the Democrats and this mentality of this girl here of like, oh, Trump doesn't care about you, like women, people of color, like, how can you clap and applaud or whatever? I strongly feel that their side doesn't like me. And I don't know, maybe it's all the times I've been called an Uncle Tom, Auntie Tom, a coon, a race traitor, you know, a Sambo. Maybe it's some of those words that I get like flung at me all the time that gives me that opinion. It could be those things. It could be the vulgarity. It could be people upset that I'm against abortion. Those folks telling me, men telling me that they want to scoop my eggs out with a hanger and all sorts of other things. I haven't gotten a ton of violent comments from men who are like trans or whatever, but seeing J.K. Rowling isn't even on the right, but seeing the stuff that gets said to her, gets stuff said to other women, seeing, you know, protesters, how they acted on college campuses. There's just one man on the street, very popular commentator, I just can't think of her name, but I saw a video where this huge crowd of people was just surrounding her, and the police were telling her that she needed to leave because they're like blocking intersections and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I will go, but all these people are following me. I don't want them to follow me to my car. So can you like escort me?" They're just like, "Should I follow you?" They're like, "No." And the police just kind of walk away. And I'm like, there's all these people, including men, who are like in her face. I'm like, this is not a safe situation for her. And all these people on top of that, they're just all obnoxious. And when I'm watching the video, my mind always goes to this place of, where are their parents? I mean, they're all grown. I guess they're on a college campus or whatever. But I'm like, that doesn't mean they don't have parents, but maybe they don't have parents. Maybe that explains a lot. But my mind always goes to, I wouldn't want to embarrass my parents this way. And I don't want people to believe I didn't have any kind of home training. So here's like a tall dude. Maybe he's not tall. She's quite short, but in her face, just kind of yelling at her and just having no regard for her. It's purposely trying to make her uncomfortable. It's just really, really disgusting. Or Riley Gaines, when Riley Gaines was surrounded, at a campus, and she had to like stay locked in the bathroom for some hours, and the protesters were like, "Oh, if she pays us, we'll let her go." Like, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen just because you don't believe that a man should play in a woman's sport. Like, you should not be harassed violently like that. So I don't know. I just get the feeling that these folks really don't like me. So people saying, why would you vote for Trump? He doesn't even like you. Well, Trump has never, made it so that I had to stay locked in a bathroom, or or I was afraid to go to my car because I don't know what kind of person might follow me. I've never had my car keyed or anything like that. But I went to an event one time, and people were letting air out of people's tires. They didn't get my car. But there's different politicians who they've gone places and people have keyed their cars and all kinds of different stuff. So I just get the feeling that, they're kind of, there's a lot of violent and dangerous and crazy people. There's a woman in Michigan, an elderly woman, who was doing some like pro-life advocacy, like door-to-door stuff, and she got shot. Like, or I showed you guys that video of that one pro-life activist, Savannah. She does stuff with live action sometimes. She got punched in the face by a woman because she just couldn't take the argument, losing the argument or whatever. And so she just bopped her right in the nose, and she had a bloody nose. And so I just get the feeling they're not too fond of folks like me. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't get the feeling that they like people like me. But I'll give a more specific example. Kamala Harris. She you might know Kamala Harris. She was their presidential nominee. So she was asked a question. Mind you, she didn't do an interview for like the first 40 days of her like 100 something day campaign, but she did have an interview like toward the tail end of the election. And she was asked about trying to implement some kind of national abortion legislation. And they said, okay, well, how are you going to be able to implement this without support across the aisle? You're going to need Republicans to cross over it and support whatever you want to push through. So are you willing to make some kind of deal, some kind of compromise, like religious exemptions? Now, as much as I don't like Kamala Harris, I would think that most people would go, of course we will have religious exemptions, or we would have, or they could at least say, well, have to look into what we mean by those as far as the particulars or specifics, but yes, in general we would have religious exemptions, and say something along the lines of, we believe that abortion is between a woman and a doctor, so we wouldn't like expect that to really be an issue of outside forces who are religious having to participate in or something. It's just something like that. Like, why would it cross your mind really that'd be like a necessary question to kind of clarify? And this fool says, oh, well, abortion is just kind of too important. I don't believe in, compromising with a woman's right to choose. I'm like, she just asked you about religious exemptions. So what are you saying? You're saying you're going to make Christians participate in abortion? Which, if you're like, how would they do that? Well, the abortion lobby in California, they're conspiring together to make Christian organizations try to make them pay for abortion. So there's that. So I don't know if it would just be trying to make religious hospitals have to participate in it, or Christians who are employers pay for it, or just flat out make religious organizations have to pay for it. They're still fighting with nuns about wanting them to pay for birth control. So once Kamala Harris said that, I didn't like her anyway. But I'm like, oh, she just like told me flat out she's my enemy. So I saw her as my adversary. It wasn't just I want Donald Trump to win. That was like low on the totem pole as far as like reasons why I went out and cast the vote the way that I wanted to. I wanted her to lose. She was my adversary. You can call her Lucifer. Lucy. I'm like, bro, she was my adversary. This same woman who went after David Daleiden for exposing Planned Parenthood for selling baby body parts in California. I didn't want her to win. I saw her as a danger to me. I saw her as a danger to my liberties. This woman who believes that you don't have a private right to own firearms. And then she had the nerve to try to spin it as if Donald Trump was the one who was a threat to the Second Amendment, as if she didn't sign her name to a brief on DC versus Heller. It was really incredible. So you guys know that I've talked a lot about why I didn't support Kamala Harris, why I didn't like her. And I did the 50 reasons not to vote for it. And they're like policy reasons. Like she, of course, was terrible on the border. Her economic policies weren't good. But I saw her as someone who was hostile to me and my values, and just wouldn't take the mentality of, well, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we can just live peaceably with each other. No, when they want to make you participate in something that I see as child sacrifice, but that's just, I see it is child sacrifice. Metaphorically, we got to throw hands. We got to throw hands. So it's not about like, I need Trump to care about me. I want her to lose, and I was glad that she lost. If you've been following me for a while, Trump wasn't the person I was going to vote for in the primary. It didn't matter by the time we got to my primary because he'd already like wrapped it up. After Iowa, it was over. If DeSantis was on the Michigan ballot, it mattered, I would have supported him. Like, if you follow me long enough, during that time with some of the stuff that Trump was saying, I wasn't too pleased with him, wasn't too happy with him. Saying some stuff that I deemed as very pro-choice. And that's a really big deal to me. So it's not like I'm his biggest glazer or something. I'm not. But I was very excited when he won. And I was very excited that she lost. So excited. Because I preferred his policies over her. But let's say he doesn't care about me on a personal level. At least he's gonna transactional. At least I know he was gonna go to do something about the border. At least I knew that he knows that men are men and girls are girls. At least he knows that. So I'm like, okay, cool. At least he's not completely insane, or at least willing to lie about something that's so insane. I don't want to support the people who believe that serial rapists should be able to say, well, I'm a woman, and then get put in women's prison. And then the judge who makes that happen, that they should get a nomination to hire a judgeship. I don't want to support that side. I don't. I don't. Bailey said most Democrats are not about freedom. I think there's a lot of older Democrats who think that they are. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know, really. You see a lot of old liberal white women out there. The type of women who are protesting to try to keep Colbert on there. His audience was like average was like 75 and up or something crazy like that. Like, was a really absurd demographic, like what his viewing audience is. And it's just weird how many protests you see, and there's just like really, really old, like white liberal women. It's very strange. But I do think there's a lot of Democrats who believe, that they believe in liberty and freedoms and all kinds of different stuff. But and it's funny. I played a couple weeks ago someone's walkaway story, and they talked about different issues that they saw in the Democrat Party, like how they were so focused on racial grievances and conversations about privilege and other things. And he kind of knew it was shady, but he just kind of kept his head down and didn't say anything. And then eventually got to like October the 7th, and he saw the reaction from the left about how they felt about Jews and so on, and he just could not support them. And he said, I still believe, I'm still a Democrat. I still support, Democrat values and other things like that. I would assume that he probably believes in freedom. It's too bad that he wasn't willing to speak up for it earlier. Maybe he could have saved his party before they went totally crazy. And I don't think they're going to get less crazy, because we're having this conversation about, are your politics based on your low self-esteem? Mom Donnie is speaking positively about New York, and he has bad policies that are wrapped up in a shiny ribbon, but people feel like, oh, he cares about me and my needs and so on, therefore I'm going to go ahead and support him. This is where the momentum is. And other people might like push the racial grievances, but they don't feel like his campaign is a negative one. You feel more negativity coming from his opponents, and maybe he'll win, maybe he won't win, but he's most likely to win, I suppose. And then they'll have to deal with those policies. But a lot of these folks, oh, I'll wear my smile on my face. Like Pete Buttigieg, he'd wear that smile on his face, but he'd go and he would, take scriptures out of context and push his agendas and so forth. So a lot of people, they want to make you feel like they want to make it seem like they care about you, and people will connect with that. But it's like, what are they really about? Are they going to implement good policies that will advance you and your family? I can't just vote on whether I get good vibes from somebody. I think your discernment goes a long way, but some people don't have discernment. They're just gullible fools. They're just gullible fools. So I just I can't be manipulated that in that kind of way. And it's not just because I'm a grown woman and I'm an adult or whatever. Again, that girl was young, but Democrats say it all the time, of all different ages to me. Like, oh, they don't care about you. It's not true, but even if it were true, I don't believe that you should put business owners out of business because they won't bake a cake for a gay wedding, or they won't do the floral arrangement or whatever. Is that what your side believes? I know it is. Like, I don't want to support the side that is insisting that men should be able to say that they're women and just take away opportunities from girls and women. That's crazy to me. And I know that that it's unfair, but you want to pretend like it's not for, I don't know, street cred or social cred. I don't think people like you should be in charge, because you don't want to stand up for truth. Your principles are garbage. You're not going to defend objective reality or whatever. And you have a skewed sense of fairness, or you just suppress the truth about it, and you choose to just be unfair. You choose to be unfair. I don't think you should be in charge of anything. I don't. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not. Trump is no means a perfect politician. No way. I'm still happy you won. Still happy you won. Quite happy that he won. So I don't know. where the Democrats are going to go. There was an interesting article in Politico today. Ben Shapiro was talking about it, how Democrats, there's like two schools of thought. His episode was called like Woke 2.0, and how they're kind of trying to get away from like the racial grievance stuff, and they're just trying to focus on basically, I guess, class warfare and like eat the rich kind of stuff. And there's one movement that is trying to embrace some like capitalism and deregulation, but still like other Democrat policies. But too much, government is harmful, or can be harmful, to economic prosperity. And then the other side is, eat the rich. The rich steal, money from us, etc. And if the eat the rich side wins, it's obviously not going to be good, because they're going to get in power sometime, maybe in the near future. And I don't want that to be the case, because they believe in crazy things. But I would rather them not be crazy. I'd rather us have some differences about taxes and so on, but still be common sense enough that you can admit that Leah Thomas is a man and shouldn't be swimming and undressing in front of girls in the locker room. Like, I think you should at least, we should be able to agree on that. You shouldn't be celebrating that a CEO was shot dead in daylight. You shouldn't be cheering on lies, trying to boycott Meyer. And this Meyer's like only in like the Midwest or whatever. So I wonder how many people around the world were just trying to bring down, again, my grocery store that I shop at over some lies. And then get mad when you correct the information, or get mad because I say Cracker Barrel doesn't have a racist logo. So, someone the other day told me, like, oh, well, there's people in the South, we know what it, she said some kind of slogan or whatever, like, we know what this slogan actually means. And it just sounded like gobbledygook. And you can't Google it either. Some things you can't find in books. I'm like, oh, so there's you have no verifiable evidence of the claims that you're making that Cracker Barrel is actually based off something racist. I'm supposed to just take your word? I've never heard this phrase that you're saying to prove that Cracker Barrel is racist. And I have relatives that came up from the South and settled in, Michigan and stuff. I've never heard anything like that. Never heard. There's people who come up from the South for work all the time. And there's people who go from here down South to get away from the cold, but and to work or whatever. But I've never heard those kind of sayings. And I would still think that it would be somewhere in the recesses of the internet. And I asked ChatGPT, I was like, have you ever heard about that? Like, that sounds like nonsense. And you're telling me I can't research it, and you didn't even explain it? But I'm supposed to just take your word when I have evidence to the contrary? It's bizarre. It's bizarre that people just want their feels so bad instead of evidence. It's very strange. I want to play this clip of Ben Shapiro talking about he was on Stephen A. Smith's show, and he mentioned the story about Cain and Abel in the Bible. And I thought it was an interesting theme about the Western civilization. He tied it to, and I guess, politics and stuff today. And this, I guess, really goes in line with his book that he's promoting, Lions and Scavengers.
Right? If you go back to, again, those biblical values that I was talking about, one of the first stories in the book of Genesis, and maybe the most important, is the Cain and Abel story. And the Cain and Abel story, which I think is sort of the key story for all of humanity, really, in describing human nature, is Cain and Abel. Cain decides, let's bring sacrifices to God. And so he and his brother Abel, they bring sacrifices to God. And Abel's is accepted and Cain's is rejected. And at this point, God turns to Cain and he gives him a kind of pick-me-up speech. He says, listen, your sacrifice was not accepted. You have two choices. Sin crouches at your door, You can either choose to overcome it or you can succumb to your sin. You look inside, see if there's something you could do better, or you can blame your brother and you can kill your brother. And of course, Cain goes the wrong way, kills his brother, and ends up exiled. So I think that is the real question for all of us, right? Are the that we see in the West, and I think all over the world, is this belief system like, no matter what I do, I can't get ahead. No matter what I do, my problems are insoluble. It must be somebody else's fault. Now, in some cases, it is somebody else's fault, of course. And in those cases, what I would hope is that we can provide evidence of why this person is harming you, how they're harming, and then we can all fight it together.
So, I think that is a good parallel to think about how, again, it goes on with his theme about that's coming out with his book with lions and scavengers, how some people build things and how some people just exist to take. And Cain was in his fields. Cain, of course, decided to do the grain offering, and Abel decided to do the correct offering. And God told him, like, you know what is right, and you can choose to do what's right, but sin is waiting for you, and you have the power to reject it. That's the interesting thing. He had the power to reject it, but he chose ultimately to make a different decision, and he killed his brother because he was upset. And he could have corrected the behavior. But there's so many people who feel like you need to lash out at people who are doing right instead of just correcting their toxic behavior themselves. I do think he's correct that this particular story says a lot about human nature and civilization. And there's so many people who just want to lash out at other folks instead of correcting their bad policy. You know, and there was someone the other day I was going back and forth with about abortion, and they had such terrible arguments, and they ended the last comment that they had was like, oh, why am I even talking to someone who, says things that make trans people want to kill themselves? And I'm like, what does that kind of do with what we're talking about? But they just wanted to find a way to attack me personally because they didn't have a good argument. And so what I was going to type a bunch of stuff to this person, and I'm like, I don't really want to have a long conversation with this person anymore. And I just asked the question, I'm like, how old are you? And they didn't respond. And the answer was probably they're probably a minor. Because the conversation was so stupid. I'm not saying adults can't have stupid conversations, but it was just so stupid and so hyper emotional. I'm like, I know this is a kid. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they were 15. Like, they didn't know anything about embryology. A lot of people don't, but it was just, it was nonsense. But I just thought it was interesting that people will try to, again, manipulate you and your emotions and make you feel like you're the bad guy because you don't care enough about people. But in this case, it's pivoted to you don't care about the trans people who go unalive themselves, and you say things that will make them unalive themselves. Well, my position is that men are male and women are female, and identifying as a woman doesn't make you a woman. You just are or you aren't. And if that is so offensive to people that it makes them want to take their own life, I think you're just admitting that you know that they're mentally ill. Now, if I say that, people get upset. But if you're saying that these people are so fragile mentally that they're willing to unalive themselves, and we don't just all become the padded cell to keep them locked in and safe in their own delusion, that they're going to go and off themselves. I think you're admitting that you know that they're mentally ill. And if they're mentally ill, it's because they believe something abnormal. It's not rooted in reality. So I think you're admitting that you're just mad at me for not being willing to lie like you do. But you lying doesn't fix the fact that something's wrong with their mind. I would like people to get all the help that they can, that aligns them with reality, teaches them how to deal with the world and cope with the world instead of trying to mold the world in a way it's not meant to be. Because what you're really doing is continuing to make everybody crazy. And I don't want to reward people who do that, especially not with political power, social power. I can't be a part of that. If you think that makes me unkind, if you think that makes me, so mean, if you think that means I don't care about people, then go ahead and make that call and make those lies. It still won't be true, but your lies aren't going to make me lie. Because I have self-esteem. I got enough hugs and kisses from mommy and daddy. Daddy never disappeared. Go looking for a carton of milk somewhere. Okay. I I just don't have low self-esteem. I don't need validation from all these different kinds of people. I don't. So, it's nice having people, speak the truth and like the page and support the page and stuff. But if there are people who's trying to hold my view hostage and say, now you got to say this stuff, Christina, we're all going to go, I guess I'd be here talking to myself. Cause I'm going to just be true to who I am and try to speak the truth. And if I say something wrong, I'm going to try to correct the error. But I just don't need, politicians and people who don't like me already on the internet to validate me. But that's how a lot of people, unfortunately, live their life and their politics. Anyway, that's the show for today. Please go to blacktunes.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. For like what to do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream on the site, all the good stuff. So you guys can support everyone much to appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the store, like different t-shirts and mugs and stuff. You guys can also check out some of my books that are available. There's a link in the description. It'll take you to an Amazon page where you can see some of my stuff. Also, you guys, you can also find it if you go to the merchandise page on blacktunes.com. But thank you guys. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. God bless.